Séku Skandan, and this is Shayon, a wonderful HCA researcher, and you may wonder what is the ex-COO and the Chief Product Officer doing in this presentation representing this. The co-founder loves me so much that he decided to bring me back for this presentation because he could not come to this because his kid has been unwell, and he stayed over, and I was visiting Auckland for some other purpose, and it's like, okay, great, I'll take it over, and then yeah, we're here. So we didn't really. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about specific projects in terms of XR learning and how, like, it's not a prototype, it's been executed, and we're going to talk about the impacts that it's created, and she's going to talk about in depth of a particular project. Okay, so I came to New Zealand kind of 3 years ago, and my ex-colleague, he was 3 years into the startup when I met him, and then we started, and then I was with him for 2 years, and then we did some amazing works actually, and so that's where the journey started. And the first project for us was this particular thing, which I'm gonna play now. So that was our first project. It was more like the big screen augmented reality. If anybody has know that actually, it's more like when we started this project, the augmented reality was not a thing yet, and we went bigger than just augmented reality, and we wanted to do something in terms of education space. And we were really passionate about space at that point of time, and we were working with clients to actually see what kind of they want to do some brand. Kind of exhibiting the brand in a different way. That is their kind of pitch to us, and we said, okay, let's use it as an edtech way to actually communicate about a particular theme of space and teach the kids while also trying to make it as an experiential marketing thing for you guys. So it kind of worked both ways, and so this is how we like to see the project being broken down. And this was when we didn't have the flow tracking and slam tracking and a couple of things that didn't exist at the time, so we had to go back in time to mathematically execute it, more like fake it, like, you know, how do you fake the technology when it didn't exist? So that's what we did, a lot of max and nerdy things, and then we came up with the smaller prototypes to see how we could do it in the biggest arena in Christchurch, which is Horncastle Arena. And then it was an experimental project that was kindly being supported by people who trusted us in the process, and we tried to execute. So basically, so what we are seeing is we kind of meshed the physical and the digital space within that. So couple of stones is actually a physical representation, and a couple of other stones are a virtual representation. So we kind of meshed in a way that people didn't know where the reality started. So that was a long-term, like that was the biggest project that we created. And we kind of, in terms of the content, we did a lot of innovation. Like, okay, it just doesn't have to be one person. How could we customize for them? So we introduced Kiwi Bird with, of course, a space mask because he can't walk in the space. So yeah, in terms of content, we tried that, and towards the end, we kind of had about 2,000 walk-ins to that particular thing. So meaning it not only captured the experiential marketing, but also communicated the importance of Mars, and people were curious, like, you know, kids were curious about Mars and trying to interact with the elements that they haven't seen before. So it was like a really good, so yeah, it was like a kind of our storyboard of how we wanted to do it as such, kind of interacting with different elements. And kind of sparking the interest of the next generation, I'd say. So this was the first project, and I'll explain the second project that followed was Astro moon mission. If somebody has been following up on India's space mission last year, they sent the third, is it third? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, second, great. They sent the second mission to moon. Like it was a big scale project, and we were kind of following that actually intensely, and we're like, we as a technology, how could we embed that, take that learning and give it to the people who want to be inspired? So based on the previous projects like Mars, and we started with an augmented reality project here. It was more based on your iPad instead of the broad scale, because we used a lot of cameras, and with this, the AR kit had arrived, so it was very accessible for us to be able to do that. So we kind of used that, and this was the video, and we so you can launch it from anywhere, bedroom. So that was our second project in terms of taking this technology and making it accessible, not as a prototype, not as existing as a service, but as an accessible app to the people. And we distributed. We had about I do not know the figure now, but we had a substantial amount of downloads at that point of time. So that was things of meaning. Basically, we introduced not just a simple augmented reality. We introduced AR portal, so you can actually jump into the physical space and go into a virtual space using an iPad. And we kind of did a couple of things that capture the essence of what made kids curious about moon mission as well. And we were in talks with the New Zealand Space Agency for replicating this for their mission purposes. The New Zealand Kiwi kids would be really curious to know what it is there. Okay, so what's next? So these are the two projects that we are focused on, and this is one of the exciting projects that I kind of started when I was there, and then now it has taken a different shape and form thanks to the team and Shayon, and I'm going to leave Shayon to talk about this project in a little bit depth. Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. Hi. And so the Ignite Antarctic is another augmented reality applications we developed. We work with ARAS, and it's for early education purpose. So in these applications, the kids can note some fun facts about Antarctica, for example, the landscape, the climate change, or the unique creatures in there, or the transportation. Yeah. So to enhance the user experience, we put a lot of efforts in creating lifelike 3D models for the penguins, because even those, for example, in the Antarctica centers in Christchurch or in Auckland here, we can see the emperor penguin or the blue-eye penguin, but there are still 16 more penguins. In the other place you cannot see, and some of them are quite unique. So we put a lot of energies in create the 3D models, and also we want to introduce the fun facts or the stories about the penguins. So instead of just reading tests, we create a lot of small stories, and the kids, they can learn their habits and all from those stories and animations, and answering some quiz, something like that. And also similarly, it's like the Heckland, the old transportations used in Antarctica. So this one is the ones you can see in the museums in Christchurch, but you cannot visit Christchurch every time if you want to see them. So we create a similar 3D models and in our app, and you can actually, the users, they can actually try the headlands and see the headlands by using our app. So this is showing one users that try to use the application. Yeah, so you can see the 3D models, you can rotate it, you can use the controllers in here to drive, and then...
You guys have come to the, have taken a ride in the Hagland ride in Christchurch or anywhere? No, not at all. So back in Christchurch is a big thing. It's more like this is the actual device that goes into the real snow, and they have this thing. But then it's such a beautiful ride. Like, you know, people, kids, and everyone loves to go it all the time. Whenever they come to the International Antarctic Center, and people who doesn't go there, they don't get to experience the physical version of it. So we want to bring that experience to people who can't have it.
Yeah. And you can see there is small hotspot here, so the kids, when they tap this, they see more information about Hagland. Yeah, so it's just finished. Yeah. So basically, the Ignite. How do I go to this? Last one, yeah. Let's choose more.
You can press enter. You can just talk just like that.
Yeah. So yeah, with the Ignite Antarctica, we believe it is immersive and effective learning tools for the kids, because they can explore all the unknown space in Antarctica and in the other place, and they can unleash their imagination and creativity. Yeah. Now hand over to Séku again.
That's all right. So one of the reasons why we wanted to do the Antarctic project is primarily because New Zealand benefits a lot from the Antarctic activities between New Zealand and several different countries, and people do not know the value that it brings to the nation and to the city and to the region in itself. So it's just not about the economic value, but also about the educational value of it. So the kids could actually go into that same thing, one sort of job markets that exist within that spectrum. So that is the reasons. And before all of this, this is one of our major missions. Actually, we were trying to find out where do we fit, and we are doing so many kind of experiences. I didn't put it. Sorry, don't hit me.
We'll sort that out later.
Okay. Great, that kind of works. So where was I? Yeah. So we are looking for what kind of business models there are, and how could we actually bring some kind of impact and difference with our technology and the content that we have. And one of the things was museum sector. So let's say, okay, education, learning, and whatever kind of we're making just goes directly applies to the museum sector. So we wanted to do that. And most of the times, the problem that we observed in museums is when you go in there, you can't touch the objects because you have the corrosive oils in your hand that doesn't make you touch objects. Okay, so that's why so we want to kind of bring that experience and using kind of virtual touch. So we kind of did some prototypes and ideas to actually how could we touch that object like an artifact or anything that doesn't exist virtually, not just an augmented virtual, but more immersive than just that, using haptics actually. So that was our thing, and we started with the HMD, and this was Hollywood. This is an early prototype of one of the earliest technologies that we had access to, mixed reality technologies, and we tried to do that, and we infused this ultra haptics technology, which is like more like haptic technology. You can feel the vibrations, you can feel the touch, so it added a different layer of immersiveness to the content that we are trying to do, and so that way you can touch the object, the real object that exists, without touching it as such. And so everyone tried that, and we kind of was part of the Mahoki program, which is the Te Papa National Museum's Culture Tech Accelerator program. So we were their cohort in 2018, and we displayed that on the D-Day, and we gave a sneak peek of what these combined technologies could help in the education and the museum sector. And so we also introduced the computer vision, a couple of other things to make it, and there's also still an element of like, attachment to your thing, like, it doesn't make it very seamless and intuitive. So we wanted to remove that layer of, okay, we don't want any technology, we want technology to be invisible for giving that experience. So we kind of used a different way. It's just, you don't need to know that, but we came up with this kind of prototype, and where you just have to put your hands on top under the product that we created, and it immediately captures your thing and it replicates a virtual hand on top of it, and then you can choose different elements to play around with. So meaning we have introduced the virtual touch, and the second layer was introducing the haptics, where you can actually feel. So meaning that it was a different way of learning about the artifacts that was from Cyprus collection 3,000, 2,000 years ago, without that boring text that you have to look at most of the times. So yeah, so these are a couple of things that we tried in the museum sector, and we have put down in Turanga, in Christchurch, which is one of the major libraries in Christchurch, and it was major hit, and we're developing more prototypes on this space, and we also kind of transformed that element into the virtual reality and added the thing as well, so for people who wanted to use virtual reality. But yeah, so we had this thing called JIX Early Access at Co-Create program, where like people, co-founders, or any applied technologies or anything, if you want to collaborate or if you want to do anything, and we'll be ready to give our technology and collaborate and get something as such. And there's a lot of yeah, we are also designing interactive. Yeah, that was actually there, but then this is our primary motive, and yeah, this is my ex-co-founder's email if you want to be in touch with, just saying hi, and yeah, I think that's it.
Thanks.
Thank you.